Welcome back to the TowerCast podcast, the towering podcast for the towering filmmaker of El Paso and the world. Very special edition of the TowerCast today. We are in the beautiful Trost Room at the Paso Norte Hotel. Thank you to Carlos and the El Paso Film Festival for setting all this up. You may be wondering what we're doing here today, but you're probably looking at some badges, and you're probably looking at Mr. Corral's t-shirt, and you're looking at Mr. Corral, Carlos Corral, the director of the Film Fest, creative director of the El Paso Film Festival, and has just been tremendous. Today is the second day as of this recording.
Or the third day, actually.
Third day, actually, you're right, because we had the kickoff on Thursday.
We had the kickoff on Thursday, yeah.
And first screening. Yesterday's blocks were tremendous. We're here for the blocks, and it's just been great so far. So, Carlos, you're a returning guest to the TowerCast. Thanks for being back on. Tell us about the festival. How is it leading up to this year? How have you been feeling?
Yeah, it's been quite the adventure. But let me just say, actually, this is my first time in person with the TowerCast. So
that's true.
I know we did it digitally last year.
Last time, what did you have? You had like an Ursa set up in the background and couldn't see yourself but had to stare.
Oh, no, yeah. I had like my old C100 and I had to stare this way. Yeah.
Now we can make eye contact.
Now we're actually making eye contact. But yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled that we're back in person. I feel like what really made that possible is that El Paso has such a high vaccination rate.
Sure.
Everyone's vaccinated and having a great time, and the audiences and filmmakers and just anyone who come, all the film aficionados who come to this stuff, everyone's been wearing a mask, everyone's been super respectful and loving. But yeah, like coming back, we had our challenges. We were like, okay, do we or don't we? We thought, once the vaccine kind of rolled out, we're like, all right, we're planning for live. We're planning for live. And then Delta came out. We're like, okay, maybe we should put the brakes on that. We don't know. But, it's coming back live. We're building back, I feel, what we lost in the last year and a half. And don't get me wrong, our digital version was great. I feel like we truly connected.
But it was like a whole year spent towards developing a new format. How do we organize it? How do we advertise for it, get people in it? And then now it's coming back to this system.
And they both have their benefits. I think having the digital format where the films live for a certain period of time, I think is really great. It gives the filmmaker the advantage of like, I'm seeing this on Roku, the same place I see Amazon Prime stuff,
Netflix and everything.
Netflix, so I think that's a really cool benefit, and maybe the films this year will live on there for a little while, because I know it's almost a hybrid, probably like 10%, virtual, 90% here.
Yeah,
as far as screenings.
But to kind of what you were saying, the part of the reason I'm also glad we're back is because I know we made those digital connections last year, but really film festivals are about the in-person connection. It's meeting the filmmakers face to face
and seeing what the film community is here.
It's almost more about the receptions and the Q&As to a certain degree, right? It's the networking and the fact that I'm able to go to a filmmaker whose film I loved and say, hey, that was terrific. And we had a bunch of questions at the Q&A panel last night just about what did you shoot on and where did you shoot, and just all of these tips and tricks that we're each giving to each other was fantastic. I agree. I think El Paso filmmakers we're treading lightly this year and coming back like, is it going to be safe? And now they're like, oh, okay, everything's good, we should be all right. And the Philanthropy Theater has been a great space, really. So far.
I love that theater. I think it is, and that's one of the things I always get a compliment of for our festival is that it's very intimate. You really truly get a chance to network with the filmmakers. I know sometimes with larger festivals, everyone gets kind of lost. It's like, oh yeah, I'll see you over here, or oh no, I'll go over here. But like here, it's like you actually get to talk to them, and because we're so close, I mean, like the Philanthropy's right across the street. I'm so happy that this hotel is open now.
It's a terrific space all around. I think the fact that we're able to, and shout out to the Paso Norte Hotel for all the accommodations they've been giving us. What I love about the El Paso Film Festival, and maybe you can comment a little bit about this, is it's really cool cross-pollination almost for first time, second time, local filmmakers to break ground on their film in an intimate kind of non-pressured way. And then you have filmmakers from all over the world sending in their stuff saying like, oh no, this is a high quality festival. I think there's some cross-pollination there where there's no pressure for the new filmmaker, and for the veteran filmmaker, they're kind of like, no, this is the festival I really need to submit to. I mean, on our end, we were like, we got to get something into El Paso, and thankfully we were able to write.
Oh yeah.
But can you tell me a little bit about that?
and I think that's what I'm at least trying to do with the festival is that I know sometimes El Paso filmmakers, they want to venture out to New York or LA
Right.
or somewhere because, that is the hub of,
Yeah.
of where film production is. So what I'm trying to do is trying to bring a little bit of LA, New York, or the world to them so that they know that the possibilities are out there. And not only that too, but I try to keep in touch with filmmakers who have moved to Los Angeles or New York or Austin. And it's just, hey, what are you working on? We had the film The Climbing Perch, which we were just talking about it before we rolled on the interview. But same thing. Those are El Paso filmmakers who are in Los Angeles, but I really love that the festival can be kind of a beacon to them and saying, hey, you're doing great work, but we want to showcase it here and we want to show what you guys are doing. You may not live here right now, but you are still Pasoans at heart.
Because it's that whole motivational fact of like a film festival really shows you, I guess, kind of like that where you're at, but also the potential and the creativity that's around
the heights
here.
you can reach, absolutely. And what's more is Robert Rodriguez, who's an alum of the festival, if you will, we had a video play right before the screenings.
Yes.
And he said, congratulating the Texas Film Commission for their 50th. But he says, so what I love about Texas filmmakers is we're far away from the industry. It really does allow us to be a little freer in our mindset and not have to do everything by the book per se. But people who do things in the industry are recognizing like, oh man, these Texas filmmakers are doing something special.
And pretty much to what Robert was saying, I almost kind of feel that Texas filmmakers, we thrive on having so much creativity with the limitations that we have. And I almost feel like that makes El Paso filmmakers very unique because we sometimes do have limitations. Like there's not always a lot of funding or there's not a lot of resources, but pulling everything together, we all make something special.
Including other filmmakers.
Absolutely.
You say this all the time, and I really respect and appreciate and admire that after each screening you tell the filmmakers, hey, now we need to work together. Now, I want to work on one of your films at some point. And he's been telling Tower that for some time now. We're just finding the right project, but on the professional level, like for you who have been on bigger sets and more professional sets and high quality industry standard stuff, you come back to El Paso and you say, we've got something here. We need to work together and really make this a hub where people can come and make films.
Yeah, and again, part of the reason I don't want to say it's like a selfish reason, but part of the reason I do like to work with filmmakers here in El Paso, or at least, okay, well, let's see how, this person writes their stories or how they direct or how they write, produce. But part of it too is I also like to educate everyone on how important location sound is. And that is my thing. I always keep telling everyone it's story and sound, but I also want to make sure because sometimes, filmmakers, they get too caught up on the cameras or the shot or this or that. And it's more opening the world of sound to them.
Right.
So I mean, like I said, it's one of those, like, it can feel selfish, but at the same time, it's like that's what I feel is my contributing or teaching.
You always
moment.
tell us. You always tell us, and any other filmmaker who asks you for advice. People will forgive bad picture. They'll never forgive bad sound.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I say that absolutely.
No, it's absolutely true. Now, give us a little bit of sampling for those who couldn't make it on what they missed out on or what they're missing out on the festival. What's happening on all 4 days?
Let's see. Well, for you filmmakers who are not here, but we'd love to have you. And we're having pretty much a really fun time. I'm networking filmmakers together as much as we can. We've got filmmaker and VIP receptions where everyone can kind of just, it's always good just it's one thing to talk to someone at the theater, after you've seen their movie, but going over and sharing some food and drinks with them, I feel like they open up a little bit more about their process because
especially after a couple of drinks.
After a couple of drinks, they'll tell you. They're not
talking about movies; they're talking about their life and how they got lost in El Paso.
No, absolutely. I mean, and some of us never found our way out.
That's terrific. I think everything from the Chuck Horak, Lucky McGee produced First Date. To the El Paso local filmmaker block last night. And some of the docs in between have been just absolutely phenomenal. And we're going to get to talk to a lot of those filmmakers later on in the episode. So stay tuned for that. Carlos, what can we expect for the El Paso Film Festival moving forward?
Well, I'm just glad we're back in business and in person. So from here on out, it's our 4th year. Yeah. I'm hoping to one day hit year 10, and then after that, year 20.
Sure.
But yeah, what I'm looking for is just also to let filmmakers know, even locally now. I know we're young, we're a young festival, but to let them know, hey, there's a place for you to showcase your work. And I always want to send levels of encouragement where if you didn't get in this year, don't worry, try next year. Like, keep trying. And that's what filmmaking is.
Yeah.
Most people think that you have to create this perfect film.
Yeah.
And it's okay if it doesn't work out the first time. Yeah. Do another one, and then after that, do another one. The only reason I'm at the level that I'm at today is because I have a closet of bad short films that no one has not seen.
Yeah.
But that's the only way you can move forward in film. Yeah. So
another Rodriguez quote I use all the time is he says, you have 10 bad films in you. The sooner you get those 10 out, the much better of a filmmaker you're going to become. And
yeah, absolutely. And then after that, I kind of feel like, okay, let's try this. And then somehow, and even then, you get to a point where you might consider your films failures,
right?
But everyone else will see it as success.
Yeah,
and it's this really weird thing of just being an artist.
They just kind of need to breathe, right? Like, you gotta. I think when we made like our film during the pandemic, we only saw it on a screen, and then you start nitpicking these little things, and you overthink it. But then seeing it actually breathe, and I mean the way that you set it up in the philanthropy theater on a screen. Everybody just has so much more appreciation for all the films that come through. That just, you're able to like experience it the way it was meant to be.
It is. I know that I got a lot of feedback on our film for just passing through. That we really just did for 48 and really fleshed it out and really happy with it. But I sent it to a couple of you guys, you included, Carlos, on kind of just like, maybe you checked it out on your phone or on your laptop. And I got feedback. We're like, oh, that's pretty good, cool deal. And then yesterday when we saw it on the big screen, it was like, I saw something different and it felt better. And I got a lot of that feedback from my film alone. I'm assuming that other filmmakers got that as well.
I was talking to the guy who did the migrant short film. What's that one?
The Climbing Perch?
Yeah, Climbing Perch. Okay. And he says,
Daniel,
I had seen this film so many times on my phone, like seeing it here made all the difference. And it's we just needed to.
For people like us, like who love cinema and really romanticize the theater, I mean, it's a big deal to us filmmakers to be able to see our films on the big screen. So I thank you for that, Carlos. Thank the El Paso Film Festival for that.
Of course.
Carlos, you're a friend of the podcast. You're a friend of Towers. We're going to work on some more awesome stuff together, I'm sure. In the meantime, we're happy to be at the El Paso Film Festival and look forward to the future years.
And I do. And actually, I hope next year we have made a film together that we can screen at 2022.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. We're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen. So we've just been talking to Carlos Corral, creative director of the El Paso Film Festival. He's been kind of opening up this conversation of how great the festival has been thus far. But we're going to be talking to more awesome filmmakers. Currently, as we speak, the Fem Frontera block is going on, and a lot of amazing work that's coming out of there as well. So we'll talk to some of those filmmakers. Stay tuned on the TowerCast podcast. We're going to keep it going.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you, guys.
And we're back at the TowerCast podcast here in the beautiful Trust Room at the Paso Norte Hotel. We are doing a special episode of the TowerCast here from the El Paso Film Festival. If you're just tuning in, we also had Carlos Corral a little earlier, the creative director. So it's been terrific so far. This is day 3 of the festival, and it's been an absolute blast. So right now we have a very special guest. We have a female filmmaker who's just been really getting into the nitty-gritty of everything, right? I really enjoy your input on a lot of the stuff as an El Pasoan, and of course the female sensibilities of being a filmmaker and stuff like that, which I think is terrific. And now you've started on a new journey elsewhere, which we'll get to talk about a little bit at the end. Jimena, remind me your last name.
Alvarez.
We have Jimena Alvarez here on the TowerCast podcast. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell me your journey a little bit about filmmaking. How did you get into it?
Well, it's kind of a long, short story.
We have a long, short time.
Yeah.
Basically, I studied theater at UT Austin. And through my experience there, I realized that I liked being behind the camera a lot more.
Oh, okay.
So towards the end of my career there, I was really nervous.
Did you encounter other filmmakers out there?
Of course.
You felt were,
yeah.
was it
no.
a very lively environment for that?
There is a lot of talent down in Austin. Okay. I mean, in Texas in general,
right.
But in Austin, I mean, that's where everyone kind of convenes.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Just because that's like the cool place to be right now.
Right.
The creative hub. Right?
Exactly. And UT was just fortunate enough location-wise to be there.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of like-minded people there. But essentially through that, towards the end of my career, I much rather had done like the logistics and like the actual planning and doing of it as opposed to being in front of the camera. So once I graduated, my family randomly relocated to El Paso through their work. And so for lack of not doing anything else, I moved in with them. And then through that, I, of course, didn't know anyone here or really what to do.
Sure.
So essentially, because the industry is just small enough, it was easy to break into.
Right.
That's how I met the artistic director, Carlos.
Yeah.
And
And we know you just directed one of his films that he wrote. co-wrote,
Correct.
And,
Yes.
I've been hearing it's been a pleasant experience.
No, it was great. We had a secret premiere last night, where essentially, yes, he wrote it. He had mentioned it to me right as I moved out of El Paso.
Oh, okay.
And of course, I was like, please show it to me, or like, let me read it. And once I knew that there was potential there.
Sure.
So once I told him that, he made the formal request of asking to be the director for it. And it was my directorial debut on film. I've directed some stage work before through my earlier career.
Did you do anything prior to directing that? I mean, I know film interested you and being behind the camera interested you, but did you do anything in the camera department and lighting and sound, or just being on set as a PA maybe that kind of got you going?
Well, essentially...
Or were you just thrown to the wolves and like, you're directing, see you next week?
It was a little bit of the latter. What I had done directing-wise was all stage work,
Right.
and then through that, I had known like the technicalities of it,
Sure.
of like lighting and sound. And like, granted, it's a lot more different
Right.
than actually doing film and like
Yeah.
doing a lot of the technicalities like post-production. My experience was a lot of like live work and
Right.
making sure that it's there at the beginning.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of
You
like
don't-
a...
You don't get a take two in stage work.
No,
I mean,
you do
everything
not.
has to be on the spot.
Which is very exciting, but also
Sure.
so nerve-wracking.
Of course.
But at the same time, through that experience was kind of how Carlos saw my credibility.
Sure.
And I had directed some stage work before, but nothing to the extent of like, producing a short. I had acting in them before, and
Okay.
also like
Do you have that background
Semi-produced.
in acting background, and that's kind of a little bit of it?
essentially, yeah, that's how I got into it. I really liked making videos with my little brother at the time, but like I never really, besides Windows Movie Maker, which at this point
Sure.
is like so ancient.
Yeah.
Because of your background prior, like this directing debut,
Yes.
didn't have as much of that kind of like fear associated with it, as opposed to like just coming in completely
It
fresh.
wasn't like your first tack over the yards. You already had some background there.
Yeah. I don't want to say I'm some expert, but I
No,
did.
no.
I did have some qualifications that Carlos felt comfortable enough to let me take the helm.
Yeah.
He only speaks highly of you, and not just him, but we shared a couple of different. We were just talking about that earlier with Carlos. A couple of different crew members, like Francis, who's your script supervisor, is now my script supervisor. And
Amazing.
She's been amazing, terrific. Jason, who's your first AD, has been my second AD and unit production manager.
Yep.
And first AD on a ton of different things. So, they all had a terrific experience on your set. I could say that firsthand.
No, I was really grateful because that was the other thing too. I didn't know that like the good thing about doing your own film is that you get to pick people you work with.
Absolutely.
And I really trusted Carlos with just, assembling a team, and he picked the best of the
Oh,
best.
yeah.
I was very happy to work with
He's the
all
kind
of
of
them.
person who knows the people who do such a good job that you don't have to worry about him at all.
Or worth bringing onto your
Yeah.
set, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially if you're taking something seriously as a filmmaker, you have to, right? How's it been being part of the El Paso Film Festival? I mean, kind of unofficially as far as submitting work goes, right? But you've been able to experience some of the different blocks and had a little bit of a discussion with some of the El Paso filmmakers last night, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Fem Frontera this morning. So how's the film festival been for you so far?
It's been amazing. This is my first in person.
Okay.
I also work as a film programmer
Oh.
for the film festival. So I
Okay.
do get to see the shorts that get submitted and
Sure.
the features and everything. And I am always blown away by the talent, especially local
Yeah.
talent. We've had a lot of great stuff. Last year was a little bit of a finicky year
Sure.
because, COVID, whatever.
Yeah.
So things really picked up this year, and thankfully so, because I think that being in person, brings not only like the passion and the drive that drives all of us, but at the same time, like you get to really bask in the hard work that you did to do all these
we
shorts.
talked with Carlos earlier, and it was just that talk of like the energy, that feeling of being in a theater in person, and then showing a film and seeing people react to it. I mean, that was why we made the film in the first place.
Even on the personal front, like the law was my obviously my DP, co-DP for that particular film that we screened, and I think I sent it to a couple people, and they saw it on their phone, and after they saw it here, they were like, oh man, we saw a completely different film almost. It was a completely different experience for just passing through. And I can't tell you how happy that makes me to have people come into a theater and experience the work, right? There's no match to it, I think, as a filmmaker.
No, and also like the El Paso Film Festival makes you really feel like a big deal. Right. I mean, I am so shocked. I have my father here. Right. He's visiting. And he's also very happy at the experience that he's having.
Whom we met, and is a very, very kind man.
Yes, but it's also like the fact that like Carlos does a very good job at making you feel welcome and making you feel heard. Absolutely. And like there is a venue and there is a platform here for you to showcase your work. Yeah. Which I feel like in a lot of film festivals, like unless you're like a big name,
it's true.
They're not going to care for you.
We've definitely experienced that in different capacities on different film festivals, and you're right. I think the El Paso Film Festival does something really special of culminating the first-time filmmakers with the experienced filmmakers and everything in between. So I think it's terrific as well. Jimena, you've started a journey in another city in Los Angeles, the coup de grace of filmmakers, right? What's that experience been like? And Jimena has communicated to us that she's not working for a very, very prestigious company, if you will. She's working for the great A24 independent film company who has been making splashes with films like Get Out and films like Ari Aster, Midsummer, and stuff like that, and many, many more to come. I mean, they're a terrific company to work with, I would presume. But tell us a little bit about your experience out there and what's going on out there.
Yeah, so I just started working with A24. I have worked with them on 2 projects now. I started this summer, and I'm part of their documentary production division. But it's been great. I mean, it's A24. It's like the studio right now. The documentary division is one of the newer branches and also one of the smaller branches. Oh, okay. I am very lucky and happy to be working with a team that takes the medium of broadcast journalism and makes it into the art form that is documentary.
Storytelling.
Exactly. And A24 has such an eye to just, be able to tell the stories and tell them in such a way that have not been told before.
Well, they have I don't want to say style to them, but when it's an A24 picture, whether it's a documentary or a narrative film, when it's A24.
Exactly. It's become a meme at this point.
Yeah, seriously.
You've
my wife, I screened Midsummer for her once upon a time, and she was so freaked out after that film that anytime she sees the A24 logo on a film, she's like, oh no, what are we getting into?
Exactly. You never know. You never know. The good thing about documentaries is that, yes, you don't know what you're getting into, but at the same time, you're always going to get something from it.
Has it been rewarding for you? Have you been wanting to, has it opened your eyes to be like, man, maybe non-narrative storytelling is something I want to explore at some point?
Yeah, I mean, when I was at the Fem Frontera panel earlier this morning, they were asking, my journey as a filmmaker, and I told them I didn't ever think I would consider myself that. Sure. But especially documentary, I mean, that's such a jump from, live performance to, essential nonfiction storytelling. But what I like about the job that I do now is that sometimes the nonfiction is, more, not only more exciting, but something that you can't recreate. Sure. I mean, fiction, the greatest fiction stories come from stories that were actually true once upon a time. Sure. So I think it's nice to bridge that divide, and also, yes, fiction is there, and fiction is the place to be, especially at a big studio like A24. Right. But documentaries is the backbone of so many stories of that.
It definitely is, and it's becoming much more relevant in society today with all of the social issues that are going on. And even if they're not social issues, you just want to tell somebody's story in a non-narrative form. It's important nowadays. It's definitely important. And quite frankly, I think we're in the golden age of documentary right now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We are, and A24 is, it's becoming a big part of that race. So yeah, no, it's important. It's important storytelling. I haven't directed a documentary in like 2 years, so getting back into it at some point is. But it's you have to find the story you really want to tell in that format, because it can be a grueling process, almost more than narrative.
Oh, 110 times.
Well, no, I mean, we're excited to see what comes next. Jimena, I think you've already kind of proven yourself to be a filmmaker on the rise, and have been an inspiration for a lot of people, definitely in your hometown, and what you're currently doing and where you're going to go. So we look forward to talking to you a little more once the new projects come, unless there's some kind of preview you can give us already. Are you working on anything new?
No, I mean, right now we're in the edit for the latest project at A24, so hopefully we get to see that sometime soon.
Sure.
For the next project, I'm hoping that we can bring it to El Paso.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, that's all I have for now.
And just a quick kind of note to backtrack a little bit. How was the Fem Frontera event? I mean, I feel like that's something that we in the film community have wanted to see more of, more perspective, and empowering women in film, because it's been too male dominated.
Absolutely. Even on the crew front, we've been very happy that our crew lately has been almost 50-50 women and men, but it's tough, to have.
It's hard, yeah. We talked about it this morning. One of the things that we touched on is the fact that, being not only a Latina, but also a woman, and also a Latina filmmaker woman. It's just like, they're not necessarily setbacks, but they're not really advantages when it comes to this industry.
It's that whole thing of you don't see enough people like you doing, I guess, kind of that pathway, and that's what makes it challenging, because then instead of feeling like, I can contact that person.
Very few filmmakers, especially if they've been in the industry for a certain amount of time. Ever Longoria just did her directorial debut for a film called Flamin' Hot that she shot up in New Mexico, and I mean, she's big in the industry in the sense that just her name alone as an actress and as a producer, and now she got to direct.
Yeah,
so
she barely got to direct,
and she's been in the industry quite some time. So, but people like that kind of
I mean, there's people that have been paving the way since long ago, but it's still not to the extent that we'd like to see it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, it's really exciting. That's another reason why the El Paso Film Festival has been really rewarding, because they, cultivate that environment.
Absolutely.
They try to really bring those people together and elevate those voices that you don't often get to hear. Yeah. So
awesome. Well, Jimena, it's been amazing talking to you today. You're a friend of the podcast, so we'll hope to have you back at some point. And more so on the filmmaking front, we hope to work with you on something pretty soon. And whenever you're back in El Paso or we're in LA, we gotta cross paths and do something together.
For sure. I'm excited for when that happens.
Well, we've just talked to Jimena Alvarez on the TowerCast podcast. Make sure to stay tuned on her work. She's going to be producing more stuff through A24 and independently. I'm sure she'll come back to the directing chair at some point soon.
Absolutely.
We're excited to see that. So Jimena, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Stay tuned. We got more filmmakers coming up on the TowerCast. Thank you. Welcome back to the TowerCast podcast. We're at the El Paso Film Festival. Man, it's been a terrific experience here at the El Paso Film Festival. We've met so many filmmakers. We have very lovely guests today. We have Ms. Lizette Barrera. Thank you for joining us on the TowerCast.
Thank you.
Lizette has been active in and out of the filmmaking community here in El Paso, is based out of Dallas-Fort Worth now, but her film in 2019 won the Film Frontera award at the time, and you were a part of the film. Man, I'm gonna get tongue-tied there. Fem Frontera film panel this morning here at the El Paso Film Festival. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience from 2019 to now, even, or even let's backtrack a little bit more. What got you into filmmaking?
Yeah, so what got me into filmmaking was just a lot of traits. My family, I think, had a very heavily influence on that. They're not filmmakers, but I think particularly my dad has always been a very big proponent of just, somehow making our stories known. No, I mean, he was in the military, and then he worked different jobs in Dallas. He's from Texas. He's Tejano, born near San Antonio. And then I'm from LA too, so it's like we're all kind of all over the places, the borders, But then my dad my parents own a bakery as well in Dallas-Fort Worth, and so in some ways it was just, I say all that just because they've always been a big proponent of just like placing ourselves in spaces, even if it's not necessarily representative of like whatever it is. But sorry, really cut that out. But just in general, my parents have always been proponents of like, you know, leaving our stories behind when we're gone.
Okay.
So a lot of it would just came up was the cliche. My dad had like a JVC camera, DV, so that he always recorded. And so my curiosity, just kind of spurt there. Growing up, watched a lot of Disney. I'm also an only child, so I had a lot of time on my hands, by myself, imagining, stories and families. And so growing up, I just always tried to like record family, events, and just always try to edit them for something just to make it more meaningful. And but then also too, like I had a best friend growing up where me and her would play with the JVC camera, and we would turn into night mode, and we'd pretend to be like try to scare ourselves out, and everything, even though I do not like scary movies, funny enough, but we'd always play with that. And so that's kind of
where it was born from.
so and all that kind of things was just like somehow my family's, they're very, very well like they do a very good job telling like oral stories. And so anytime we get together, it's just like esto pasó, or like this happened, and etc. So we're a bilingual family. We speak mostly English, but then also Spanish. So it's like
that
these things
reflects in your work for sure, I would say. Can you tell us a little bit about chicle or gum, right, as translated, and how that kind of reflects some of that background?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, chicle was definitely was so it was actually my thesis film that I did at UT as a grad student.
Super cool.
And essentially, it came out, I guess, from me mourning my grandfather, and he ended up passing away. And I think during the time I was also like trying to figure out my identity throughout the time. So I was just trying to figure out all these like different emotions. And so essentially that just kind of culminated together. And what became Chicle was about this girl just trying to figure out how to just say goodbye. Right. Until the gum gets stuck in her hair, with the best friend coming to visit them at the house, and that kind of thing. But mostly it's in English, it's mostly English, but there are some spurts of Spanish and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But just whatever is like naturally was occurring, at least in my family, in terms of like how we speak, is definitely involved in there.
Some of that code switching and bilingualism, if you will. Absolutely, that definitely reflects. Before we move on, are you hearing the music or what's? Yeah, that's fine. We're gonna pick some of that up. It's kind of inevitable. Sorry.
Oh, it's all good.
So Austin, cut that out. Cool. Okay, so how has your experience been in the El Paso film community, and more so in the El Paso Film Festival, especially this year? How's that been for you?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I'm not really involved actually with the El Paso film community. I have worked. It's funny. I've known Carlos for a while though, and I'm trying to remember where I met him.
I mean, you're both UT alums, so maybe. In that regard,
probably in that midst. But yeah. But it's funny though, because like my family's actually from Juarez, and my grandpa is actually, who the story Chicle was about, is actually like he's cremated, on the other side of the border, not too far from here. So, with my family just kind of being from all over the place, we used to just kind of use also El Paso as our midpoint to just either exchange cars. So we did the trip to LA a lot, tons of times. And so that was just like kind of like our midpoint here in El Paso, because Texas is so effing big. So it's like they have to cross 3 states, we just got to cross the same state. But, I would say that,
That's beautiful. Just having that foundation of the El Paso community in general.
There was that, and then I think, too, is that El Paso and Juarez was just, presently always involved in our family still, though, with my grandma. She's like, anytime she can come here, she was almost going to come to this trip, just so that we can go to Lincoln, which is over there by something I forgot, just to go get some asadero cheese,
I live in Socorro here in El Paso.
Oh, yeah.
Right in San Alyssa.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find a way over there before tomorrow, because I need to bring some.
A little bit of a hike from here.
Yeah,
but not too
a little
far.
bit.
You live in Dallas, so everything's much more expensive.
Right. Yeah.
For the Femme Frontera event, I mean, I feel like that's really big as far as like empowering women in film and female filmmakers. How was that, being a part of the panel and the whole event right now?
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, even before the panel happened, Angie got us, she's part of Femme Frontera, and she brought all of us like for a pre-meeting before it, and we had like just even a fascinating talk there about identity and about all these things, and I think it's like a lot of times it's like some of us just want to be known as just filmmakers, but we also happen to be this and that, but it's like, it's hard to be like the unboxing of boxing and all the stuff to categorize ourselves. And I think part of it, what's super important, I think, is just, it helps us be present, in front of the screen, helps us be present to other people who like wanna, another brown girl sees us on, like, that's all I wish that, to help inspire,
on all fronts. I mean, definitely on the, we were just talking about that with Jimena earlier about Latina filmmakers, just in general, Latina artists in general who don't have that, or didn't have that to look up to, but now people do, thanks to something like this, thanks to Filmmaker. Even as a Mexican American filmmaker, I mean, I don't see anybody my color behind the camera either, at least not continuously, not consistently. So it's encouraging to have both sides of the coin. Kind of going in on that front.
No, I'm just gonna add that it's if you don't see anybody doing what you would want to be doing, then
who looks like
you. That it's like, how then do I get there? How do I connect with these people? And I think something like Fem Frontera really kind of bridges that gap. Makes us feel like we can jump into that position, and that there's somebody that's going to be there to kind of hold us and like guide us through that. So
absolutely. It's a very important organization. I mean, one of my friends, Ileana Souza, was part of that organization. She's actually from El Paso, and she's also a collaborator. Her and I and 3 other Tejanas are also, we're a collective right now, making a feature in that, but it's like being able to be present in those spaces, getting to hear also her experience growing up in El Paso, my families and all these things, and then also just like sometimes it's me an outsider coming in, but in some ways it's like this is also part of my history too. Absolutely. And I think it's super important, especially what Frontera is doing for both both sides of the border, but also just like what does it mean between borders and without borders, that thing, so these questions. So I think what they're doing is amazing,
Absolutely. Beautiful thing that's happening here in El Paso and all around, where they're bringing in filmmakers all around. Lizette, is there anything that you're working on that we should be on the lookout for?
What's next?
Yeah.
What are you waiting for?
So I have 2 features right now in development. My other first one is Chicle, which was, the proof of concept. Essentially, that was here. So that's in development. And then the other one is the anthology feature film with 4 other Tejana directors called, right now it's currently called Untitled Texas Latina Project. And I'm a co-director representing Louisville, which is between Dallas and Denton. And we have a Fort Worth representative, Jasmine Diaz, San Antonio, direct the segments. These are the segments. Chelsea Hernandez is representing San Antonio, Sharon Artiega, Corpus Christi, and Eliana Souza representing El Paso. So, so just those friends literally just kind of came together.
Very happy to have somebody representing us.
Absolutely.
The side of the state, if you will, because we're pretty far from everybody in East Texas. So,
it's such a big collaboration, like all over Texas.
That's terrific to hear. We're definitely going to be on the lookout for that. Thank you so much for joining us on the TowerCast. Thank you. We're going to be on the lookout for your work, and thank you for coming down to the Paso Film Festival. It definitely means a lot to a lot of people. So thank you.
Thank you so much. For
appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Stay tuned. We got more filmmakers coming up on the TowerCast. We're at the El Paso Film Festival in downtown El Paso. So keep it locked. It's pretty cool. Welcome back to the TowerCast. If you've been tuning in, we're at the El Paso Film Festival, downtown El Paso. Right now we're in the Trough Room at the Paso Norte Hotel. We've been talking to a lot of great filmmakers and going to be talking to a lot more, including right now we have a very special guest, Diana Mata. She's producer and editor for a feature documentary. Feature narrative?
It's kind of like a blend.
Definitely a feature film screening here at the El Paso Film Festival called Winter Song. Canción de Invierno, and we're gonna kind of transition into Spanish. Diana's a little more comfortable with Spanish, and we're gonna talk a little more about Spanish. So forgive me for my Spanish, but we'll get into a really good conversation. Diana, cuéntanos un poco de tu historia, de cómo veniste a películas o contar historias. ¿Qué fue tu proceso?
Pues creo que desde niña mi juego con mis primos y con mi hermana era grabar cosas, desde muy pequeña. Sí. Entonces justo hacíamos la edición en cámara, ¿sabes? Como que grabábamos y no nos gustaba, lo borrábamos o luego cortábamos a esto. Y un día me di cuenta que podía editar eso, como que eso me abrió un mundo de posibilidades. Y no sé cómo aprendí a editar, solo lo aprendí picando botones. Sí. Y creo que a partir de ahí como que...
Editar digitalmente.
Ajá, sí. Muy chica, o sea, de niña. Y ahí a partir de ahí como que ya fue un bicho como que no se me quitó nunca, ¿sabes? O sea, como que ya se quedó conmigo.
¿Creciste aquí en El Paso, en Juárez? O...
No, yo soy de la Ciudad de México.
De la Ciudad de
Ajá,
México.
ahí nací, ahí viví toda mi vida.
Okay.
Y ahí estudié también.
Oh, wow,
Ajá.
okay. So, cuéntanos un poco de Canción de Invierno, de qué se trata la película, y sé que fuiste la productora y editaste la película igual.
Sí, sí.
¿Qué fue ese proceso?
Bueno, la película la hice con Silvana Lázaro, que es la directora y la escritora de la película, y también estuvo en el proceso de edición, evidentemente. Y es una tesis de la Escuela Nacional de Artes Cinematográficas del UNAM. Realmente al inicio iba a ser solo un corto, o sea, como que teníamos permiso de hacer un corto, por así decirlo.
¿Fue en la misma escuela donde pues muchos, o sea, como por ejemplo Shivo, fue a esa escuela?
Ajá,
¿no?
sí, Cuarón. Ajá.
Cuarón, de ahí viene
Sí.
sí.
Entonces, al principio iba a ser solo un corto porque pues es lo que la escuela te pide, pero al final como que nos colgamos de algunas ambigüedades de la escuela, nos saltamos algunas reglas honestamente, y pudimos hacer
somos los directores y productores de películas a veces.
Sí, a veces es lo que se necesita hacer, claro, ¿no? Y teníamos 23 años cuando la grabamos, y pues sí, fue como todo el crew era como estudiantes o que acaban recién de terminar la escuela, la mayoría del crew fue mujeres. Es una especie de mezcla entre documental y ficción. O sea, yo creo que la película trata de explorar como disolver la línea entre la ficción y el documental.
Así que es la historia, ¿qué nos puedes decir un poco
la historia es un road trip. Son dos amigos, una chica y un chico que tienen el corazón roto y deciden irse de la Ciudad de México a Tijuana, a Baja California en general. Y viven como ciertas aventuras. También es una película con un montón de música, porque son músicos los personajes principales. Entonces llegan, por ejemplo, se quedan sin dinero, entonces empiezan a tocar en un bar para poder ganar un poco de dinero.
¿Tomó inspiración de alguna manera, por ejemplo, del estilo de ¿Y tu mamá también? ¿O de algo así? ¿O más?
Pues sí, más o menos. O sea, que también queríamos hacer un poco...
Es una de mis favoritas películas.
Sí, es un clásico, ¿no? Sí. Pero justo pues trata como de explorar también mucho, como mostrar a las mujeres desde otra perspectiva, claro, sí, ¿no? Y también mucho la amistad entre hombres y mujeres, o sea, como que justo es un chico y una chica, y generalmente pensarías que eventualmente van a acabar juntos en el viaje, tienen el corazón roto, entonces,
¿no?
Ajá, justo pensarías que es así y no, o sea, todo lo contrario. Entonces también trata de explorar como otras masculinidades. Es un poco también tema fronterizo, es algo que filmamos también en 7 ciudades diferentes.
Los que están mirando esto no la hemos visto porque la van a enseñar hoy a las 7 de la noche en el Plaza Theater, Philanthropy Theater. Todavía no lo hemos visto, pero sí me interesa mucho. ¿Y qué fue la experiencia de grabarla, de hacer la película?
Una locura,
sí,
la verdad fue una locura porque no teníamos, teníamos experiencia de cortos, pero un largo es muy diferente. Y tampoco teníamos mucho dinero, tampoco es como que las otras personas del crew habían hecho largos, ¿no? Entonces fue una aventura, o sea, un poco como que el scouting fue así, un road trip, ¿no? Hicimos varios scoutings antes de grabar la peli, y después también el rodaje fue un road trip. O sea, nos íbamos lo hicimos en 7 ciudades diferentes. O sea, grabamos en Tijuana, en Ensenada, el Rosarito, Tecate, la carretera Mexicali, a Ejido Heréndira, en la Ciudad de México, hacia Morelos también. Entonces como que íbamos en el carro, así como que ya acabamos de grabar aquí.
¿Fue el crew? ¿Sí tuvieron bastante?
No realmente. En Ciudad de México sí fue más grande porque ahí teníamos más control, más amigos podían ir, porque evidentemente tampoco teníamos dinero para pagarle a todos. Y era una tesis, ¿no? Entonces, claro, como muchos estudiantes, pero en Baja California sí éramos como 12 personas. Wow. En su mayoría mujeres. Y también creo que se necesitaba mucho ese ambiente libre de rodaje. Sí teníamos planeado las cosas, pero también necesitábamos que fuera bastante flexible por esta mezcla que tenemos entre documental y ficción. Entonces, como que se necesitaba a veces tener esa apertura para poder voltear a otros lados.
Claro que sí. ¿Qué ha sido tu experiencia aquí en El Paso y con el Paso Film Festival y Film Frontera? ¿Cómo ha sido esa experiencia para ti?
Súper chida, la verdad. Me han recibido súper bien, me gusta mucho, el lugar es muy interesante también, la gente sobre todo, que está aquí, como que he tenido conversaciones súper interesantes. La cultura latina, como la mezcla Estados Unidos-México, me parece algo muy interesante y que también va mucho con la película, que fue filmada en la frontera y que tiene tema también de frontera.
Eso sí. Qué bueno. Nos da mucho gusto que hayan venido muchos individuales creativos de diferentes partes del mundo y Carlos Corral siempre está platicando de ustedes y de esta película en sí. Nos da mucho gusto que la hayan traído aquí al Paso. ¿Qué esperamos? ¿Qué es lo que sigue para ustedes? ¿El retiro de Silvana?
Silvana, sí, Silvana no pudo venir al festival, pero también está muy contenta de que estemos acá presentando la película. Es nuestro primer festival al que podemos asistir por la pandemia. Estrenamos en Guadalajara, en México, y acá en Estados Unidos estrenamos en San Diego Film Festival, y ahí ganamos mejor película. Pero no pudimos ir por la pandemia, entonces también es muy emocionante porque esta parte de ver la reacción del público, de conversar con el público, a mí me parece súper valiosa, ¿no? Yo siempre le pregunto a la gente que ve la película como, ¿qué fue lo que más te gustó? Y qué fue, así como, ¿qué parte no te gustó? Como que también es importante saberlo, claro.
No, pues ¿qué espera? ¿Qué es lo que sigue? ¿No sabes
sí, de la película. Pues estamos buscando, tenemos un plan de distribución ahorita. Por ahora como en México nada más, esperamos como que se pueda extender a Estados Unidos, sobre todo porque es un tema como que siento que tiene mucho interés en Estados Unidos, y pues en eso estamos, ahora.
Muy bien. Okay, we've been talking to Diana Mata, who's been the producer and the editor for Winter Song, or Canción de Invierno, and you can keep a lookout for more things to come from these amazing filmmakers from Mexico City. It's been a pleasure talking to you about all of this. It's really awesome, and we look forward to you all coming back and bringing another film to El Paso Film Festival.
Sí, ojalá.
And us over there, nosotros también tenemos que ir y llevar una
por
película
favor,
a México,
claro.
A los festivales allá. So, muchas gracias por platicar con nosotros on the TowerCast podcast. We're going to be talking to more filmmakers. Keep staying tuned on the TowerCast podcast.
Y también quería decirles que si quieren seguir a la película en Instagram, estamos como Canción de Invierno Film en Instagram, y ahí pueden ver por dónde va a estar la película para que nos sigan. Muchísimas gracias.
Canción de Invierno Film on Instagram. Make sure to be on the lookout for that. That's where all the updates are coming for what festivals are being hit and everywhere. Okay, so thank you so much, Diana. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Muchísimas gracias.
Welcome back to the TowerCast podcast. We're still here at the El Paso Film Festival. It's been an amazing day.
We haven't left.
We have not left. We've been pretty consistently here, yeah. No, it's been great. We've been talking to a lot of great filmmakers today, and yesterday at some of the different blocks and panels. And one of the filmmakers we have today screened his film at the El Paso Shorts block last night. No, in the morning.
Yeah,
right? It was in the morning.
It was in the morning
for the good, the bad, and the indie block. In the morning, and his film's called Wake Up, right? We're talking to Brandon Herrera here today. Thank you for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about your experience, man, about your journey as a filmmaker, as a storyteller. What made you want to be a filmmaker?
So when I was little, I just really loved movies. My favorite movie was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I was obsessed with it. The Tim Burton one.
Okay.
I love Johnny Depp. Like, he's my favorite actor. But I just got into it during high school because I went into high school, like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Sure.
And a lot of my classes required us to do video projects.
Okay.
And so I found myself working on this video project one night, and I literally stayed up till 3 a.m. working on it, and I fell in love with the process. I was just
awesome.
I want to do this for a living. Like, this is amazing. Like, I want to tell stories. I want to just work with the camera. I want to make movies. And so I just started getting more creative with all the different projects I had in my classes and stuff. And I actually, one of those projects that I worked on inspired Wake Up, and I figured out how to do masking on Adobe Premiere, and it's an easy tool to use, but it changed my perspective on filmmaking, and it changed what I thought I could do.
Opened up that ability of man, I can do so much more. With some effects and stuff.
Yeah. So I made this video project. It was about a saint I had to do. It was for religion class, and then I duplicated myself, and it was cool. I recorded myself having a conversation with myself. It was really cool. And so I thought I could do that with a mirror. I could be talking to myself in a mirror, and then I was that'd be a really cool and interesting idea for a horror short, some
scary thing goes on, like the mirror, some dude's washing his face, and then that's when I started doing Wake Up, and I didn't even write or prepare for it at all. I just shot that scene, that very first scene.
Did this during the pandemic, right?
Yeah,
so
I did it.
Kind of an outlet for that creativity during that time, right?
Yeah, I was going crazy. I was pacing back and forth in my room, thinking what can I do with this? How can I tell this story? And I started out with that scene in the mirror, and it just the rest just came out.
You mentioned in the panel, the filmmakers panel, that you had your sisters help you out essentially, right? Just your little sister was working the camera pretty much, and you kind of just told them the idea from one night to the other, and just kind of got into it, right?
Yeah.
That's very cool, man. That's very cool. It's very grounding and humbling when you just. You did everything yourself to kind of bring this together, and that we know what it feels like to not feel creative during the pandemic. And
also, I was gonna say that I know what it's like to have your mom behind the camera, and you're just trying to tell her no, you gotta. Okay, let the scene flow and do this, and you're just trying to feel like I'm a filmmaker, you know. But.
And it's terrific, and then we enjoyed the short very much so, and it was terrific to watch. What has your experience been at the El Paso Film Festival, man, so far? You hail from Austin, if I'm not mistaken, right? You're out there at UT currently.
Yeah, I'm at UT. I flew in to come for the festival.
Sick.
Honestly, it's been really really fun. It's been a really good turnout. I really loved all the films last night. I was really impressed by your film.
Oh, thank you.
Passing through, and it's just cool to see other filmmakers talent and all the creativity that comes out of my hometown. It's really interesting. I didn't even know there was such a big filmmaking world here.
Oh, yeah.
And going to Austin, my eyes have been open to the filmmaking, film grammar and stuff like that, and just
just the theory and rhetoric and just the lingo, if you will.
It's slowly growing here, and I think that's why we go to the film festivals, right? It's just to see what other people are doing, because
we get so caught up in making films that we hardly have the time to talk to other people about what they're doing and what they're up to. And coming to a film festival really shows us oh man, the progress of our city.
People, just around.
So we feel that. We're right there with you. We might be in the city, and sure, we'll know what productions are kind of going on around town, but until you get to a screening or a festival, it's oh man, there's been 10 films made this year just by these people or by this guy or this community. So it's really really encouraging, and I'm sure that's kind of been the feeling, right?
it's been really exciting, and now I'm excited to come home for the holidays, maybe work on a project here with some filmmakers here. And I went to Austin thinking that there was more opportunity there, but coming back I realized there's so much more here.
It's a good balance. We've made a couple films out there in Austin, and sure, the community is great. I personally love the music community out there and the blues scene, and it's been great to meet other filmmakers out there, but we're very happy with what El Paso is doing out here. So I'd definitely encourage you, any chance we get you back here to make some films, man.
And then using that opportunity to meet other creative people, because I think a lot of us start off thinking well, there's not really much to do here, but then it's not till we find like-minded people and people who are motivated or want to go out and film projects that then we're no, we have so much potential here. I mean, us found the location of San Jacinto Plaza, where everybody walks by it all the time, but then we thought no, we could do a film here. We could showcase beauty, but it's sometimes I think when you're just here too long, you get
those ideas, right? Absolutely. Brandon, what's next? What's next for you in terms of film? What or any project that you're currently kind of developing or working on?
I'm working currently on a short. We're going to start production in November, and I wrote and I'm directing it as well. I basically, this is my first time producing anything with other people, so it's really exciting.
We should say that at least for Wake Up, you also start in it. So is that a muscle you want to exercise as well for acting, or you just kind of did it out of necessity, or?
I did it out of necessity. I'm not. I don't have the confidence as an actor, but I mean,
none of us behind the camera.
Yeah, I'd rather be behind the camera. Sure. That's what I went into filmmaking for.
Cool.
But it's fun to work with actors. This is my first time, and I'm really excited, and we'll see how it turns out.
Absolutely. Well, is there anything we can promote as far as social media? People will be in contact with you or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm on Instagram. And also I have a YouTube channel with Wake Up, and then I have another short on there that I made for film school actually.
Okay.
But yeah.
Very cool. So be on the lookout for Brandon Herrera and all social media and YouTube. Keep an eye out for his film Wake Up. We just screened at the El Paso Film Festival and his future works. Thank you, man. Thank you for coming down.
Yeah,
and we look forward to talking to you some more. And now that we know that you're from El Paso and you're kind of going back and forth between the holidays, we look forward to working with you on something, man. Absolutely, and connecting some more.
Thanks for having me. This was
absolutely.
fun.
This we've had Mr. Brandon Herrera on the TowerCast for the El Paso Film Festival. We're still here downtown. It's been phenomenal. Stay tuned. We got more filmmakers coming up. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the TowerCast podcast. We are live from downtown El Paso, still the Trost Room here at the Paso Norte, the beautiful Paso Norte Hotel. It's been here all day and it's been terrific. Yeah. And we've been talking to more and more filmmakers. It's been terrific. We've just got back from one of the screenings for one of the feature documentaries. It was really great, well put together. And today we're going to be talking to a documentarian as well. Right now for the TowerCast, we're talking to Alyssa Yang, whose documentary screens tomorrow as the time of this recording, which is Sunday. Tomorrow, Sunday, her documentary short will be screening called Sleeping with the Devil. And we're excited to talk to you today on the TowerCast. Thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me.
So, Alyssa, can you tell us a little bit about your storytelling journey? How did you get started?
Yeah, I am primarily a visual artist, and this was my first film and kind of what got me into filmmaking and kind of just really fell in love with the process. So basically the background is I grew up in an evangelical cult, and my mom had thought I was possessed by all kinds of demons when I was high school, so she had took me to at least a dozen exorcism. And in college, she gave me a call. She's like, hey, so there's exorcism being done over Skype now. I would love to pay for it so you can go back to church. And this was in 2015. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I basically went in kind of with an open mind, really wanting to understand what is the attraction and what is the process of having this technology. Because usually it's in person, sure. It's like a group hide, and it's a very different experience. So and I was also very open to any sort of spiritual interference. Like yeah, if something happens, then okay.
Wow, interesting.
So
kind of polar opposites to a certain degree, right? From religion to, I mean, they all intertwine in the supernatural, obviously, but there's obviously the lighter stuff and the darker stuff. And
yeah. So I ended up recording the exorcism, and I sat on it for a year, and then I kind of used it to talk about the religious trauma of growing up in that religion and sort of this capitalistic industry side that take advantage of people who are in need and are the most vulnerable.
Out of curiosity, I guess kind of what made you feel like this form of visual art was better than writing it down or documenting it in other ways, like I guess
in a book or
because I mean not to say that it's I don't know how you would phrase it, but documentary is a very interesting kind of, I guess, market or art form to go into, and has its strengths and advantages, but there's people that write about experiences and feel that just using words is the best way to kind of encapsulate the situation.
And I have a follow-up to that.
Okay, absolutely. That's a great question. I think one of it was just that I just kind of dived in and not even thinking I was going to make a film. I honestly just wanted to re-experience the exorcism, but on a Skype form out of just curiosity. Sure. And then I ended up using it to kind of look at the history of televangelism and how, it was first started in America in the 30s with Oral Roberts as the first under the Bible tent, and then it went on TV, and then it's on Skype. Wow. So I was interested in using the same medium to talk about how this religion is using the very medium that I'm using to tell the story.
Right. Wow. Kind of a catch-22 almost.
Yeah, so I kind of also collage in a lot of archival footage of what that looks like.
Right. Oh man, that's terrific. That's cool, and then the follow-up question I had was, you chose non-narrative. A lot of people I feel like would want to tell the classic horror film of something like this happening, right? But,
right.
Why documentary? Yeah, why not?
Because I think I wanted to also show what that experience is like.
Sure. On a realistic.
Yeah.
Because that was a reality for you.
It is, and it was an advantage that I actually went in genuinely just wanting to experience it again without actually wanting to make a documentary film. It was only after a lot of encouragement from my peers and my advisor at the time.
I mean, it's the good and the bad, right? I mean, I grew up, I know you might have a little bit to say about it too, but in a religious aspect as well. I grew up a Pentecostal Christian and stuff like that. And again, lots of good, lots of great. But, you know, my wife, for instance, is very obsessed with like Scientology right now and what's going on in that world and just all the crazy stuff that's being exposed and as of late. So I can see both the positive kind of connotations to stuff, but also the stuff that doesn't really get talked about, that needs to get talked about in public forums. So I think that's a very interesting subject matter to bring up.
Yeah, for sure. And then I also want to, I guess, emphasize that it also comes out of like a love for my mother and also just respect that like that faith has really helped her, and wanting to understand it, even though it's something that kind of turned me off, but that doesn't mean that I'm not open to understanding.
Sure. No, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful and rare way to look at the world right now, because most people either choose one side or the other without being open to stuff and open to discussion. And I think so that's what cinema's all about, right? At the end of the day, especially in documentary story form, is how can we talk about this more, and should we talk about this more? And I'm sure people have already come up to you and asked you a ton of questions about what that experience is like. But we as filmmakers want to know more of the storytelling stuff. But how was production on that front in terms of what you now know as production? Then you were just throwing it all together and seeing what happened, right? But how was that for you?
Well, it was also like, okay, I don't have any money. How do I make a film?
Did you intend on going to school for something like that, or you were just like,
I just kind of threw myself in. So it was $295, which is the cost of the exorcism. And
Perfect.
everything else I found on YouTube.
I was gonna ask. I mean, it's really interesting that I guess you're kind of tackling this documentary medium as, kind of your way of exploring and expressing this inner story that you had.
Yeah.
And exploring that kind of like whole reality behind it. But I mean, now you're at the film festival and you're around people who, this is not only the way to kind of like tell a story, but this is the art form we like live and thrive in. So is this I guess a start in your chapter for more filmmaking?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really? Okay, cool.
No, I love filmmaking. It's a bit a slow process for me right now, but I'm also kind of taking the time.
So how has it been at the festival, seeing all these other documentaries and things?
It's been great. It's been really, I actually really, really love the filmmaking community more than the visual art, if I can be honest.
How or why, if you don't mind me asking? Like, has it been?
It's more resource sharing. It's a lot more supportive, and I think the structure is different in terms of audience engagement, but also how the artwork is.
And I'm assuming visual art, could also be kind of more lonely to a certain degree, right?
Very
lonely. You're very much just working with yourself and your resources and what you have right in front of you, whereas filmmaking is very collaborative.
Exactly.
If you allow it to be. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's
a
lot of filmmakers who just like to do things themselves. But
we've kind of come to think of film as being like the one art form that encapsulates all other art forms.
Exactly.
And that's what's really impressive about it, and that's what we love these festivals, because you're connecting with all those different people, all the people who are doing scores, are doing visual effects, are writing and all that kind of stuff. So kind of neat to see that you're coming into that side now after
and coming into your own about it. I mean, you seem to be stamping your foot on the ground and saying, I love filmmaking. I want to continue to do this.
Definitely.
So what's coming up next for you? What do you know? What the next thing you're kind of working on yet, or anything we can preview, talk about, or
is there like an Exorcism Part 2?
Well, I had a trilogy I had in mind, and then the first part was I went to Japan to film in love hotels and talk about. I kind of used love hotel as a metaphor for the female body and how Asian women are reclaiming their bodies in sort of this traditional patriarchy structure where we're usually been groomed to serve the society, your husband, your father, your family, and then you.
Yeah.
So I want to do like a second part of it and relating to the shooting in Atlanta, where it kind of ties into the hypersexualizing of Asian women and where that came from.
That's interesting that you bring that up, because here in El Paso, there's a direct kind of correlation with that, with Mexican kind of culture, and very much we call it machismo in Spanish, and it very much exists in our culture, more so in Juarez with the, I don't know if you got to see some of the documentaries that screened, but some of the stories they tell about the women disappearing,
and all that.
you know, women disappearing and also claiming, you know, their own, kind of claiming their bodies back and stuff like that is very deep correlation to Asian and Mexican Americans.
Absolutely. And I really think that when you speak truth and talk about things that were so much suppressed through shame and having these cross-cultural dialogue, that's the stuff I really love.
It's really coming to like a core, I guess you can kind of say, problem that it's faced everywhere.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Being addressed, yeah. But that's super cool.
That's amazing. Well, we look forward to that. We hope that that's something you bring either in long form or short form back to El Paso Film Festival or any other film festival we could catch.
And then you said it's a trilogy, so what's part 3?
I don't know yet.
Okay, cool.
You're working on the second one right now, but the third one hopefully is coming too.
Super cool.
It kind of corresponds to where I am in my life and what's going on historically.
Okay, sure.
So that's, I tend to do things very long term, have a much, like, zooming out.
Very much like a documentary.
It sounds about so.
I know.
Well, today we've been talking at this very moment to Alyssa Yang, and she's been telling us amazing things about her storytelling, and we look forward to what's coming up next for you. We really do. Thank you so much for being on the TowerCast, and we're going to be talking to even more filmmakers. So stay tuned on the TowerCast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
And we're back. We're back, Delal. Thank you.
We're back.
We're back at the TowerCast podcast here at the Trost Room in the Paso Norte Hotel. We're joined by our awesome film commissioner, Mr. Drew Mayeros, returning guest to the TowerCast podcast. Thank you for joining us, Drew.
It's great to be here. I was last with you guys about a year ago.
Yeah, virtually. And so I'm glad to be able to talk in person.
In person.
We've had conversations and meetings and hangouts before this in person, thankfully, but now we get to talk a little bit on the podcast. Drew, the first thing I want to kick off from, we know a ton about your storytelling journey and kind of all the awesome stuff you've already done, but El Paso is having a renaissance even in the film commission. Can you talk about the new name, logo, approach to the new film commission?
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Well, we launched, we did kind of a soft launch last week and a full-blown launch this week in coordination with the Fest of our new brand, which is Creative El Paso. And so all of our social media has switched over to Creative El Paso. And we now are known as the Film and Creative Industries Commission. And our areas of interest are film, music, design, and photography. So we wanted to expand our role and serve the entire creative community in the city of El Paso. And although those four certainly don't cover all of the creative industries, it's a good start in trying to reach out and help develop those industries and to promote them as well.
Awesome.
Was there just enough stuff going on in all these different other creative aspects that it was kind of like just being the film commission felt too limiting at a certain point, or what was kind of like the reason that you took that next step?
Well, our market, as you know, Texas is a modestly incentivized film production state. We do have a strong program. It's a very stable program, and it's a good program, but it's small.
Sure.
And it doesn't reach us very well. It doesn't serve our area very well right now, unfortunately. If we were to be New Mexico and Albuquerque and Santa Fe, that would be a different story. So it's not like I didn't have anything to do, because there's a booming commercial and corporate and still photography industry here that keeps me busy with permitting and location work and coordinating. But
and the occasional narrative. I mean, you permitted our film, which was great, and we were able to shoot downtown with no problem having a permit under our belt. So
right, and smaller narrative projects and pieces of large narrative projects. We had 2 this summer that were with extensive permitting and road closures and car work on the streets in downtown. So
big films, I might add. I don't think we could talk about them yet because they haven't been announced or per se, but big films.
Films that were either actually both of them were set in the city of El Paso in their scripts, but for financial and other reasons were filmed primarily out of El Paso,
South America, from what I understand, and different places.
And they came in to do all of the shots that identified the city and put the place
Second
with
unit
the
stuff that did really well. We had a couple of the tower guys work on those sets, and I mean, it was a good set. It was a good set and very organized, and everything was good.
So we continue to do film work, but it's not anywhere like what we were doing 20 years ago, before my time here, when large Hollywood features with Bruce Willis and Denzel Washington and a whole nother class of projects, larger projects came into the city.
Chuck Norris, some of these guys that did it.
Yeah.
It's true.
So we wanted to expand our reach because we have contacts in a lot of these industries, and as you guys well know, they all commingle.
They all intertwine.
And
Absolutely.
and because of technology primarily, but also because of the presence of social media and online content creation. It's really kind of democratized that whole creative world of being a creator. So it worked well. The El Paso International Music Foundation was a partner with us in getting the city established as a music-friendly certified city by the state of Texas. So
there was a presentation of that plaque, if I'm not mistaken, pretty recently, right?
Yeah, we had a small presentation at City Council, and so that's very cool because that kind of opens the door to us doing more things in the music world.
And like you say, they intermingle significantly, especially music and film and the arts and design. I mean, the design culture in El Paso is very much booming on all levels, from commercial to corporate to creative. I think it's interesting, and I want to talk a little bit about the event we had, the mixer, sort of, on Thursday of this Thursday. Thursday? And I mean, we got to talk to a lot of creatives, not just filmmakers, but musicians were there, and artists and composers. Everybody was there, and we had a blast at that event at the Manor. So the shout out to the Manor, was terrific.
Yeah, thanks to their support, we were able to use their venue Thursday night to kind of kick off the fest. We were an unofficial opening reception for the festival, but Carlos was able to come by, say a few words, and we had a great turnout.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I was just so pleased with the number of people that came, and
what I love about that is that there wasn't, I mean, it's kind of under the radar for a little bit, and then kind of a few days before we're like, hey, we're doing this, who's getting, and you would expect people not to show up, but everybody was excited about this. Everybody was, and I think it's a good transition into the Film and Creative Industries, the Film and Creative Commission, involvement in the El Paso Film Festival, and kind of just, I feel like the Film Commission as a whole, now the Film and Creative, has been getting more involved with this brand new festival.
We are, and we're trying to support them as best we can, both financially and with our promotional activities. And El Paso Live and Visit El Paso, which are my parent and kind of sister organizations, have been supporting them as well. Because an event like this is so important to the city for many reasons. It draws people from out of town and tourists. So that's a primary goal of one of our tourists that visit El Paso.
The majority of filmmakers we've spoken to today and yesterday have not been from El Paso.
Yeah.
And they flew in just for the festival, and they staying at the Paso Norte or at the Plaza or have you, just for this.
Right. And that's so important, is to introduce people to our community and our filmmaking world here. And many of those film festival filmmakers are not going to be the type of filmmaker that says, I've got to have a 25%, I've got to have a 30% incentive for my next $35 million movie. They're just not. And for us, a $600,000 feature would be fantastic. We would love to have that. And for people that are in that budget range, it can really work.
El Paso is the perfect location for you, and we've been preaching that I don't know how many years, right?
You guys are the poster children for El Paso film, and I appreciate that.
No, absolutely, Drew. I mean, you've been terrific to us, and like I said, we just finished shooting my favorite thing I've done as a director and as a DP too so far, and it's been terrific to shoot that film. We shot it in the heart of downtown, and you go to another city and that's not going to be possible ever. I mean, even if you get 10 permits and you have a crew of 50, it's much harder in a city like Dallas to do something like that, or you know. But in El Paso, we had complete control almost of the whole town square, and through the permitting, and you came on, you know, visited us on set, and we were very happy with what we got and what we were able to get as filmmakers. So
well, and the other thing is that filmmakers here, of course, live here,
right,
and they have to be around after the shoot. And so they're very, very sensitive to shooting in our city. And you guys are great examples, because San Jacinto Plaza is the heart of our downtown.
It is.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And
that's hardly utilized. And if it is, it serves as like a foundation for special effects or something, as opposed to just shooting the beauty that exists already. No, we had a blast. So what can we expect moving forward, Drew, from the Film and Creative Commission, and what some of I know you've talked to me privately about some of these projects that may be coming up, hopefully fingers crossed, but what can we talk about that everybody can know? How can we get involved and push the commission forward, because we need to?
The first thing we're going to do is launch a creative industry survey. So we want all of people in our creative community, and the people that came to our first reception, you know, that's like our core group, and we want to spread out from that and grow that group, because we want to find out what creators are doing, how they're doing it, what they're utilizing, what they don't need, how we can provide for them in a better way. Secondly, our online creative industry database is going to be coming online, but hopefully within the next few months. And that will include traditional crew people for film and TV projects.
Kind of like the catalog we used to have.
So if you're looking for, hey, I've got a production designer, I've got an art director, I need some set dressers, or I need some wardrobe people to help, you can go through that database.
Awesome.
And we're also including in that, of course, music design and photography.
Beautiful.
And then the third thing that we're working on is specifically for our musicians is a small performance venue database and a calendar of events. So, for instance, if you're a guest of the city and you're a tourist, you're coming in and you're here on a Thursday night, but you're leaving Friday, you know, you may not want to catch the big show at the Plaza or a big show at the Don Haskins, but you'd like to go see, I don't know, maybe a guitar player, or I'd like to catch someone on piano at a hotel. That's that place where we're going to be able to zero in on those small venues and people that are playing. So typically people that may advertise on Instagram or Facebook. We're looking forward to that.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to it, Drew. I just want to kind of mention a couple other things. You have a film that's screening, or that will have screened at this point at the Oculto Horror Fest. That's a very new festival out of Juarez, but that are kind of branching out into El Paso a little bit in some screening rooms. So Judge and Jury from upstairs,
Judge and Jury,
which I mean, Drew is a filmmaker well within his own right, and we want to promote that everywhere because he's our film commissioner, and that's a big deal. He's a creative commissioner, so that's awesome. We look forward to that, and we look forward to hearing the reception of that, and more so. I have a little story about last night screening. We screened Just Passing Through at the El Paso Film Festival. I had sent Drew the film, a few weeks ago or whenever we wrapped it, a few months ago, and how was it? It came out good, man. You guys did this for 48, very cool. And the conversation kind of ended there. It was like, yeah, we're moving on to the next scene. We got other stuff going on. And then Drew came up to me after the screening yesterday. He's like, I saw something different on the big screen. We didn't change anything. He's like, I experienced it in a whole different level. We got a lot of great feedback, and I just thought that was so cool to have someone come up to you and be like, hey man, it feels so much different on the big screen as opposed to looking at it on our phone or on our computer. It just felt a lot better. So, we got into a little bit of a conversation about that.
Yeah, I think that's something that will never change in this particular art form. That the size of the image is something that has this profound effect on us, and I meant it because it felt different. Of course, I know the behind the scenes and what you guys did to pull it off, but I enjoyed seeing it again. I always enjoy getting previews of y'all's work.
Yeah.
So
We appreciate it, Drew, and they'll keep coming. I promise you. You know, we love to get your take on all that stuff. And so, Drew, thank you so much for being on the TowerCast today, and we look forward to upcoming years of the commission and the collaboration with El Paso Film Festival, and of course our collaboration as well on a personal level. So thanks so much for being a friend, and we'll have you on next time as well.
you bet.
Thank
We'll
you
do.
so
See you
much.
guys soon.
Yeah.
I have to say real quick.
Oh yeah.
Why is it that every time we talk to Drew, it's always the most exciting thing? It's always like, oh, we're going to start a new database. I mean, one day you're going to be like, oh, there's a studio that we're building.
Yeah, we got the
now.
back lot.
Yeah, like, oh, we have a spaceship at our disposal. It's always great. So, yeah.
It'll be fun. It'll be the tower back
Yeah.
lot, and the film commission will obviously be involved in that capacity. It'll be fun.
Well, thank you for growing this community, Drew.
You bet.
It's been absolutely amazing being a
Yeah.
part of it. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Look forward to the next time we see ya.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking to Drew Mayer Oaks. He's our Film and Creative Commissioner here in El Paso, and everything music, design, film. I'm forgetting the fourth. Photography.
There you go.
Drew's going to be heading, obviously, and got a lot more on his plate now. So make sure to keep up with Creative El Paso on Instagram and stuff. They've been posting some really cool stuff. So keep an eye on that and everything that's happening in the arts in El Paso. And I believe we're going to be talking to even a couple more filmmakers today. So stay tuned on the TowerCast. Thank you.
Okay.
And welcome back to the TowerCast podcast, the towering podcast with the towering filmmaker of El Paso in the world. We are, as you can see, the lighting has changed behind us. It's dark now. We've been here all day at the El Paso Film Festival. We're in the Tross Room at the beautiful Paso Norte Hotel, and it's been terrific. It's been a terrific experience thus far. We have a very special guest today. Been talking to filmmakers all day on the podcast, as you've been hearing, and we have the very awesome Carlos Corral, not to be confused with the earlier Carlos Corral, director of the festival, but a terrific filmmaker who's screened Dirty Feathers feature film here at the festival, and we're here to talk to you. So thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So just to get a little bit about your background, man, tell us a little bit about your storytelling journey. How'd you fall in love with storytelling, cinema, everything?
So I started photography at an early age, and then I worked at Fellini Film Cafe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Betty Zaltzman took me in, and when I started working for her, we projected 2 films a night, and then, as you know, I don't know if you've been there, or were there, because it doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, so she had a cafe, and it would project 2 films a night, foreign international films. And then
hence the name of the cafe, Fellini Cafe.
Yeah,
I'm a big Fellini fan. I'm a huge Fellini fan. So
yeah,
I get you. Yeah.
And then the other half was also a rental place, and so yeah, she had a really great collection, archive of films, bootlegs, VHSs, and on top of, again, she had it so organized that it was by country and by year, so it was really great to be able to see the films in that way. And yeah, I shared with her my cliche story of wanting to go to like film school in LA, and she told me like that's like the biggest mistake you could probably make. She thought, this is your film school, so she basically gave me homework there while we watched 2 films, and yeah, she would give me like 3 films to watch.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
that's the way to.
We were just having a conversation with he's getting all fancy. We were just having a conversation with Drew Mayer Oaks, and it's that whole debate of like whether to go to film school or whether not to go to film school. And I mean,
Drew has been on panels and stuff, and he tells a funny story about a time he got into an argument with Kevin Smith about it. And Kevin, obviously very nice about it and stuff, because he's of the camp that you don't have to. He dropped out of film school halfway through. So but Drew was talking about that and how we ourselves are kind of the same notion. We both went to school, but our film school has truly been either making the film or studying the masters that came before us, right? That's the biggest film school you could really get, is studying the master. I say that all the time. We stand on the shoulders of giants. So to study their work, it's what more can you get, right?
Yeah.
I think maybe that was your experience, right? Just
yeah, definitely. I think the biggest lesson she taught me was the cut. What do you cut to next, and what's the motivation behind that cut? So yeah, that left a lasting impression.
Sure, absolutely. I can imagine. Leading up to Dirty Feathers, I'm assuming you've you've been involved in quite a few projects, so we've heard. So what was some of those projects that you kind of led up to once you started rolling camera, if you will?
So yeah, my mentor and producer is Roberto Minervini, and he's an established director, and yeah, I just learned a lot from him in the aspect of the ethics of filmmaking, because he works with, I hate to say this term, real people, but yeah, with characters that are already living that persona.
Sure.
And yeah, his sensibility and the way he listens to the characters and the whole like cathartic experience that unravels in the filmmaking process.
Right.
And a lot of what happens without the cameras rolling.
Sure. No,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely,
that's
that
what I
almost
learned from
realism of the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's terrific. So tell us a little bit about, especially the people who are listening who couldn't make it to the festival or couldn't screen all the films and stuff like that. In our case, I mean, we got a bunch of screeners ahead of time, but a lot of times we weren't able to make it to the screenings because we're here. Tell us a little bit about Dirty Feathers and what it's about, and how we got to that trajectory of making the film.
Yeah, so Dirty Feathers started right after my uncle passed away, who had a similar lifestyle to the characters in the film. And so it being, an alcoholic, drug addict, gambler, fast life, kind of lifestyle, when he passed away, it made me realize how our immediate family and even myself had like these like assumptions of him and this judgmental kind of, like, oh, you're a drug addict and all these things. And so yeah, like I think I wanted to explore in confronting those prejudices.
The humanity behind that, right? And lack of humanity in terms of lack of empathy and stuff like that too on the receiving end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where it came about. And then, so Dirty Feathers is about the homeless community and how within the homeless community, people find a sense of belonging. So it's not just as easily as saying like homelessness is a problem, but some of the characters actually found community.
Sure.
So they found a family there, which I think was really special.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
So yeah, that's what it's about. It's about a sense of belonging and community.
Very special background to that, absolutely, and something that's not paid attention to quite as often, especially in the screen, or on the screen rather. So that's terrific.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, has documentary always been the kind of like medium or like art form you've wanted to follow, or
More
is
narrative,
it something
or-
that because I mean, there's always two ways to look at a story. There's the way of making a narrative that speaks the same message, or to make a documentary that really, I think it's more difficult, but it follows the real life story around us. So is documentary something you always lean towards, or was that something that
is it
you felt like
narrative
this
at
story
one
really
point?
required?
So I don't know. I think it's interesting when filmmakers blur the line of documentary and fiction.
Yeah.
I think it's essential to use a little bit of both.
Yeah, you have to. Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm a huge fan of John Rush and Werner Herzog. So what they do is they do documentaries, but they inject a little bit of fiction just to be able to heighten themes and moments. And I think it's important to blend both of them and not be so strict.
Use the strengths of each kind of storytelling
Exactly.
mode.
Yeah, so like in this case, the characters that I filmed with, the kind of dialogue, the way they express themselves could only, in my perspective, the only way it worked out was to allow them to have the safe space to give that to me. And I find myself, I don't think I could write the things they say. So
I think it's interesting that you very actively call them characters, and very much in that notion. You're not sure they were events that you were inspired from, that you witnessed personally, but characters and how not to blur those lines and stuff like that. So that's very interesting, very, very fascinating. Leading up to the production and everything that it entails, how was that experience for you?
So the production, it was very, like, my mom was the producer.
Oh, okay.
So it was very troubled times when I decided to shoot this. I didn't have much financial resources, and so she helped me out a lot. And the nature of the film was that I only shot for 11 days, but prepared a lot more. But But yeah, it was a very short time, which I wish could have expanded to more, but that's what it was.
Yeah,
And
that's the capacity you had to tell that story in that capacity, rather. What's coming up next for you, Carlos? What do you have planned? If anything you can divulge, what's coming up next?
So I just worked on this show called The Migrant Kitchen.
Okay.
It's on PBS, and I did the Puerto Rico episode, and I'm about to finish that.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Terrific. When can we expect that to?
Hopefully next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super cool. Super awesome. Well, congratulations on that. Lastly, I just want to ask you, what has the El Paso Film Festival been like for you? What's been the experience? I'm assuming this isn't the first time you've attended either, so or been involved even in some capacity, whether you've had a film or not. What's it been like for you?
I mean, the hospitality is great. I mean, we're here in this historic hotel, and the community. It's great to see everyone that I've been involved with or have seen on set, and and just celebrating it all together and just embracing the identity of what is El Paso.
It's terrific. We were just talking about that earlier. How last night we screened our short film at the Paso Filmmakers block, and just the reception was terrific, and the turnout even. We were kind of surprised on just the philanthropy theater, but it's, though intimate, still you have enough people coming up to you on the feedback. That's very,
and also
very,
just being back in person and communicating with people physically and connecting in that kind of way. I think filmmaking is supposed to be about kind of connecting these different creatives all together. So we're finally able to do that again. So,
absolutely. I mean, it's
hopefully
terrific.
You've had
Congratulations.
Oh no,
That's
congratulations
awesome.
to you as well. No, we appreciate that, and congratulations to you as well. I mean, a feature. We shot our first feature way back when. Not to say that's your first or anything like that, but it's a big deal. No matter on what capacity or in what form, it's a big deal to finish a feature film. So
Definitely.
we applaud you on that. We've
that's
been through it. We get it. We didn't have much money. I mean, we shot 10 more days, and we shot in 21 days, but I think we had maybe $1,200 to do our feature here in El Paso, and that's a terrific experience, but it's no easy feat. So congratulations on
Thank
that
you.
front. So absolutely. Is there anywhere the listeners can follow you at? Keep up with your work, that type of thing.
No.
Not quite. Okay, no, that's all right. Yeah.
So
the Instagram for Cine Candela.
Oh, yeah, Cine Candela. I don't know what the Instagram.
Yeah,
Is that what it is,
at
Cine Candela? Cine Candela on Instagram. Make sure to follow them. And
otherwise, screenshot your face right now and just punch you down.
Share that.
Okay.
We've been talking to Carlos Corral, who was director of Dirty Feathers that screened here at the El Paso Film Festival, and amazing filmmaker. And we look forward to what you're gonna bring next to not just to this festival, but to all festivals and to us as viewers and El Paso natives as well, man. So thank you for that, and thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Well, you've been tuned in to the TowerCast podcast here live at the El Paso Film Festival. So thank you so much for joining us. I think this is the last interview of the day.
I think so. Thank you for being
our last interview. So we appreciate it. And stay tuned. There's tons more coming up for the TowerCast podcast and for the El Paso Film Festival, as you heard earlier. So thank you so much. And we'll catch you next time.
Take care.